Hey, what is up, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to or watching the Powercast. And today we will be recapping Power Book 2 Ghost Season 3, Episode 5. And the title of the episode is No More Second Chances. And today I am joined by Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How are you doing, Richard?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
What's up, indeed? I see you was a guest at Francesco Lombardi's mansion at the party, judging by your name. So I hope you
Yeah,
had a good
that
time.
the party was fantastic. Unfortunately, y'all didn't get to see it because y'all were too busy watching what's happening to Tariq and everybody else. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I heard you saw that private collection too, so that's interesting. Um,
Yeah.
and we're also joined by Miss Dana Abercrombie, aka Cousin Boyfriend. What's up, Dana?
Yes, I'm doing okay. A lot of things are going down on this episode. A lot of crossing the line that I don't think really should be crossed, cousin boyfriend. But it's going to be interesting. We'll see. The families are in an entanglement.
Oh yeah, and what an interesting entanglement is going to be based on what happened in this episode. So yeah, interesting episode indeed. There's a lot to talk about here. A lot happened. There's some things that I'm a bit like iffy on that happened, but like it was an entertaining episode to watch overall. Especially with the whole Italy aspect, them being out the country and stuff. That was cool to see, like a new setting and everything. But yeah, there's going to be lots to talk about today, and I can't wait to see what the people think also. So we will get into our takeaways in just a second. But friendly reminder to the people, please do like the video if you enjoy the content and if you enjoy the banter and the discussion. And then, you can also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to get notified when we drop a video. And also, please do leave your comments and let us know what you thought of the episode and what you think of our theories and discussions and everything. And check out the Coalition Entertainment channel and also the Coalition Gaming channel to find some additional content over there. But let's head right into our takeaway segment. And this week it is Richard's turn to go first. So, Richard, when you're ready, hit us with your takeaways from this episode.
Absolutely. So let me start by saying, when this might surprise some people, I actually thought this was an entertaining episode of Power. Now, there are a few critiques, obviously, to get into, and we'll get into a lot of that stuff today. So I would encourage everybody to stay tuned, get your popcorn ready, and we hope to entertain you today with all we got to say about this episode. So I do have three takeaways I want to get into. I'm going to start with Sax, Jenny, and Lauren because in this particular episode, we finally got some answers to how they were going to handle this situation. I do want to give a shout out to Miss Dana Abercrombie because what she predicted on the last episode, the last recap, is almost essentially what happened in with this whole situation with these three. But so let's just get into some stuff that happened. Obviously, when the episode started, Jenny is questioning Monet because she's trying to find out what really happened to Kevin Whitman. And obviously, she checks to make sure that Monet's murder weapon is registered. So clearly, all the alibis are working for the moment. Okay, but after that, she does have a conversation with Sax and Blanca, and basically is saying that we need to do everything that we can to get to the bottom of this. And she is pushing Sax to say, "Listen, you're working with Davis. You know Davis is corrupt in his own ways, so I need you to work a lot harder to give me something that I can use." So as a result of that, what ends up happening in the episode is that Davis and Sax, they do have a conversation because Sax finally finds some information to help Theo Rollins' case. He delivers this information to Sax, I'm going to say to Davis, and Davis decides, okay, this is great, let's go celebrate. Sax decides, no, let me stay behind. And then, of course, he stays behind, goes through Davis's stuff, and finds that there was a police report that Kevin Whitman had that no one else had saw, except for Monet, obviously. So he sees that information, and he sends a text to Jenny and say, "Hey, I found something." All of a sudden, Jenny doesn't want to have anything else to do with Sax. Doesn't say anything. Doesn't respond to his messages. Say, "Hey, not right now." So he decides to call her. She does not respond to the call. So he ends up following her. And of course, in following her, this is when he finds out she's been keeping Lauren hidden this entire time, making people think that Lauren was dead. Now, I do want to start out by saying I want to give Tracy Lee a shout out because she predicted that this whole thing with Sax and Jenny, it would be some bad breakup that they would have, and Sax would feel a certain type of way about that breakup. And that is exactly what happened with this interaction, because even as he's talking to Jenny, he's like, "Oh, did you ever feel anything in this relationship?" And no, she was saying that now her focus is on getting to the bottom of this case. But I question Jenny as a character because this entire episode, she's on Sax to say, "Hey, I need information. We need information. So you need to help us out." And then when Sax has the information, it's like it doesn't matter. She doesn't want to say. And again, as Sax said, they're on the same team, so they should not be keeping information from each other. So, to see that come out the way it did, that was a little ridiculous. Then, of course, Lauren steps right outside the house. I guess Gary wasn't working that day as the security guard, so this is why this happened, because otherwise this wouldn't have happened. But Lauren comes out. She hears the conversation that Sax has with Jenny, and she pretty much decides Jenny is definitely has been honest with her. So later in this episode, she does contact Tariq and meets up with him at the campus. By the way, no campus security, nobody out there. So, hey, if somebody saw Lauren, I guess they wouldn't recognize. She had the hoodie on, right? So it is what it is. But she tells Tariq that she believes he was involved in all of this. And Tariq is trying to tell her, "I didn't know that Braden and Effie set all this up." And he's right. He's being sincere. But she can't trust him. But she warns him that the feds, they're basically building a case against him. She is a witness now. So I'm very curious to see what happens now with these two characters, because obviously Tariq still cares about Lauren, but I kind of feel like at some point he might be forced to have to take her out. I mean, it feels that way because she has the information, she's a witness, but let's see what happens. All right. So that's the first takeaway. The second takeaway, let's talk about the Tejada family in this episode. Okay. Now, obviously, Monet, when she found out about the information last week in regards to Lorenzo, she is not handling that news well. She's very angry about that. And Davis, she does tell Davis about the situation, and Davis asks her, "Are you okay?" It says, "Yeah, I'm all right." And she tries to convince Davis that I'm not going to do anything to react to this. But Davis should know better that Monet is, she's very determined to get to the bottom of all of this stuff. So what Monet does do in this episode, which I found very interesting, is that she pays Evelyn a visit and tells her that Lorenzo is the one that put a hit out on Frank. Basically saying, I understand you want revenge, do what you got to do, but I don't want anything to happen with our kids, which is fine. But the thing is that as this conversation goes on, and as the episode continues, the whole time you have Gordo and Drew also doing their own due diligence to try to track down the CI that was shot in the previous episode. And they go to the hospital to try to get the phone that he had, which has a whole bunch of photos of Braden and Lorenzo on there. But when they get to the hospital, it is discovered the CI didn't make it. And they did say last week that he was in critical condition. So I'm fine with that. They do go to pick up the phone, the other evidence. They take the phone, delete the photos, get rid of the phone as well. So Gordo and Drew are still working together closely, obviously, and they have a relationship. This is what Dana's name is about, the cousin boyfriend. They have their little relationship. But with Monet, this entire episode, she is still there. And then she does eventually have a conversation with Gordo in this episode, alluding to the fact, basically saying that make sure you take care of my son. And then she's talking about how did it feel dealing with the fact that his father is gone. And this is where I have an issue because, as Dana has said before, there's a lot of foreshadowing of what's going to happen. We as viewers already knew that Lorenzo was going to get killed. I mean, that was pretty obvious because of all the things the character did in this episode. The fact that he talks to Diana and says, "Hey, you don't need to sell drugs anymore. You can just focus on school." The fact that he had the conversation with Kane in the previous episode, it felt like the character's time was up. But what I don't like is with the foreshadowing, because in this episode, not only did Lorenzo die, but you knew exactly how he was going to die because they told you in the episode, oh, yes, Gordo said, if I ever find out who killed my father, I will slit his throat. And that is exactly what happened. So when it happened, I felt absolutely nothing because they told me ahead of time it was going to happen. I thought Monet was going to be the one to kill him, but instead she set it up and had Gordo do it. And of course, Gordo does have a relationship with Drew now. So I can't wait to see what happens with those two characters now when Drew eventually finds out, because he is going to find out at some point that he was involved in this as well. But very interesting decisions. And the last point that I will make before I go to my final takeaway is that the way Lorenzo was killed, right? And we'll talk about the trailer for the next episode later. But in that trailer, Drew is basically talking to Gordo saying, I believe that the Russians killed Lorenzo. Now, let's rewind to what happened to Lorenzo. He got his neck, he got his neck slit right in front of the mural of Zeke. So I don't know, like I said, we haven't seen what happens in the next episode yet, but I'm just going to say this. If his body is discovered there, I'm thinking that murder has to do with this mural because obviously it's all connected, right? That's why I said that I don't know how Drew came to that conclusion, and obviously we have to wait to get an explanation of that next week. But I think it's pretty obvious to me that this is all connected. So I don't know how he figures the Russians are responsible. We already know about what happened with the whole thing of them killing the guy, the drug dealer, Tariq killing that drug dealer that they were going to try to do the deal with. So that's fine, but I don't know. It is what it is, but we'll see what happens. And finally, let's get to the juicy part of this episode, which is Tariq and the crew and how they made their trip to Italy. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I was at that party. It was jumping. So shout outs to everybody that was there. But pretty much, they do take this trip with RSJ. I did like how RSJ found a way to make sure that Lucas wasn't able to attend the trip at all, which I thought was very interesting. That goes to the point that you both made last week when you said they really try to undermine some characters and focus on the other ones as being the more important ones to pay attention to. So I thought that was very good. They took that trip. RSJ is talking with Tariq. He does tell Tariq something very interesting, which I find when he talks about his father, the fact that his father used to run numbers and was a criminal as well. I don't know if that's important, but I mean, they're trying to build connection between those two characters. So it makes me curious to know if we're going to find out about who his father was at a later point, and maybe if this is somebody that Ghost knew or something to that effect. Probably not, but we'll have to wait and see. But pretty much they take this trip over to Milan. And of course, while they're over there, they get visited by Noma, and Noma is saying, hey, this guy, Francisco Lombardi, he's my ex, but he's also my competitor. He has a tracking device that we planted somewhere, and I need you to get that tracking device and give it back to me. So in trying to get that device, Brayden obviously gets caught, gets beat up, and then he is held by Lombardi's team until Tariq and them are able to meet up with him towards the end of the episode. And once they meet up with him, what ends up happening is that Noma has to end up saving the day because they hold Tariq at gunpoint, about ready to shoot his head off. So she saves them. Now, what is revealed throughout this entire thing is that there's a private art collection that they have at the mansion. And we do find that Effie has a chance to check out that private collection, and she reveals to Tariq in this episode that, hey, wait a second, they have a picture of Noma, Lombardi, and their daughter. And basically, she gives Tariq the idea to say, hey, if we want to get free, we can use this as leverage. We know she has a daughter. All we have to do is get to that daughter, try to use this as our bargaining chip, which I find very interesting. The only issue I have, though, is that to me, it gives the impression that they've already set up an end game for how they're going to deal with Noma, which makes me concerned as a viewer that this character may not survive way to the end of the season, that she could be taken out at the end of the season. And I don't want to see that, because I think we've already said on this show, this character has range. You can have her be on this show for a couple of seasons. But it also makes me question what's going to happen with Monet, because I personally, as I said on this show before, I believe that Tariq already has another bargaining chip, because he knows that Monet killed Mecca. And I thought that that was what, Noma still wants answers for that. So that's why I thought they were heading into the direction of Monet versus Noma. And that could still happen. But the fact that they now have added a child into this, it makes it a little bit more interesting, but it does make me concerned that they're already trying to figure out how to end this situation with Noma. So I want to see how they handle that. I'm not going to say that I think the episode was bad. I'm concerned about a few things about what it means for the future of the show, specifically this storylines, in general. But overall, I thought it was an entertaining episode. It did its job, which was to entertain. And again, they always have the style on point on the show. Everybody was looking fantastic in this episode as far as the attire, everything. So, hey, I'm entertained. Let's see what happens next week. But very curious to hear what both Gary and Dana have to say, because we didn't really talk about any of this stuff prior to recording. So hats off to you both.
Oh yeah, those were excellent takeaways right there. So and yeah, like you pointed out something very important, the fact that now Drew and Gordo are getting closer, and then now we know what Gordo did at the end of the episode. So that is definitely going to cause some problems in the future. And yeah, I have there's a lot to say about the Noma thing as well, and whether they're going to try and get rid of her. But we'll talk about that a little more. But yeah, excellent takeaways and observations as usual. And it's my turn next for the takeaways, and then we'll get to Dana in a sec. So I'm going to go ahead and give my takeaways right here. So first of all, what we all predicted happened. Lorenzo got taken out in this episode. And I'm actually happy that this has finally happened, because I feel like it was long overdue. And I feel like now that it did happen, it opens the door for the story to go in another direction now. So I'm kind of relieved that now that story is come to an end, even though there is going to be an aftermath, of course. But I'm glad that it finally happened. And Monet was, she was very calculating in how she did it. The fact that she went, to Evelyn to tell her what happened with her husband and everything. And then, Evelyn, she was happy to finally get the truth, but she also didn't really want to retaliate because she didn't want to risk losing one of her sons. So then, Monet actually targeted Gordo. And, I'm assuming they had of course they had that exchange outside the Tejada house, and then I assume that they talked more off screen as well about how to kind of set that up, because we did see Gordo text her later on at the end of the episode to confirm that he did kill him. So they must have talked about it off screen. But yeah, so she was very, she was very calculating in how she had this done. I am glad that Lorenzo actually came clean and talked to her about it, because at least we got that scene where she actually gets to confront him face to face. I will say the acting could have been a bit better. Like, I feel like because I didn't really get the full aggression, because she was throwing things around, but I didn't really feel it from her like that. She, I didn't feel it in her expressions and mannerisms and stuff. But yeah, I'm glad that we did get that scene of those two, at odds, and him kind of confronting what he did, telling her what he did and everything, confessing. So yeah, I'm glad we got that. And then And then yeah, they were basically telling us the whole way through the episode that Lorenzo was gonna die. Like I think we kind of knew at a certain point, like as soon as I think as soon as maybe as soon as like she spoke to Kane, I think like where and then Kane spoke to Lorenzo and stuff. Like I think at that point we knew it was gonna happen. So they were telling us that throughout the whole episode he's dead, basically. And yeah, it was a good relief to kind of see it at the end, finally. And now the show can move on in like we can get to a more complex story now. I think now that that's kind of behind them, I do think there's going to be a strong aftermath where, and we're going to talk a bit about that after about how the Tejadas are going to react to this. So that's definitely one of the questions I want to ask you guys later. But yeah, I'm just glad it's done because based on some of the other things that happened in this episode, I think we're getting ready to move into a new direction with the story now. So, I can't wait to see what's next. And then second takeaway. So, coming off of what Richard was talking about, Effie presented, after the whole thing at Francesco Lombardi's party happened and they had to like rescue Braden and everything. We see that Effie presents Tariq with a way out. She shows him the picture of the private artwork where Noma has her child and Francesco and everything. And yeah, so like now they have an out because that's been their whole thing so far in this season. Like they feel like they have to sell drugs, for Noma. They feel like they're kind of they don't have any like wiggle room. They don't have any other option than to sell drugs for Noma. And they want a way out. They keep talking about the future and getting out the game and living a normal life, but they're not going to be able to get to that point until they get out of this arrangement with Noma. And Noma looks like she's ready to double down on things because she told them that they're out of the trial period now, and now they're going to be working together for a long time. So she's happy with them and she wants a long-term relationship with them. But they're all thinking about the end game. And first of all, one thing that was interesting was how during this conversation with Effie and Tariq, we had the moment where like Tariq was, he had that moment of realization where he was like, wow, that she like Noma's cold because she killed her own husband, like just now. Like we just watched her kill her own husband. And Effie kind of shrugs it off like it's nothing. Like, so who cares? Like, she kind of shrugs it off like it's just like whatever. And I think that right there was something deep. Like that right there shows some sort of psychopathic tendencies within Effie, I think, to where, she's not only is she maybe, well, we know that she is keeping secrets because she hasn't told Tariq about Lauren yet. But I feel like there's something deep going on with her. And I think we're gonna get more of a picture of what's really going on with this character because it does always seem like she's hiding things. And then we know that she is kind of cold and calculating because she picks and chooses what she tells Tariq. And, we've seen that she wants to tell Tariq about Lauren, but she chooses not to because, she wants to keep what she has currently with him. But we know at any moment, based on the fact that she's already lied to him and not being honest, I feel like at any moment she will do what she can to preserve her money and her living and her way of life. So I feel like there's going to be some sort of rift coming with these two characters soon, and that's going to be interesting to see. Especially with regards to the plan that she gave to Reek about Noma. Like, so once this whole Lauren thing blows up, how is that going to go? Are they going to even be able to do that anymore? So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And my third takeaway is, of course, so the whole Lauren thing, I have to say, like, the whole because we've been waiting for someone to find out that she's alive, and I don't know, the moment felt a bit wasted on Sax. This whole Sax and Jenny thing, like the moment it just felt a bit wasted. It's like, okay, like whatever. And he wasn't even that shocked. He was just like, oh, so it's Lauren in there. Like he wasn't, it didn't feel like a big shock, a big moment. And then right behind that, we got Lauren sneaking onto campus, which was a bit like, what the hell? Like, how is she just able to sneak out of this house that's being guarded, and then sneak on? Like, first of all, I'm pretty sure this is very far away from the campus, so I guess she got an Uber or something. But like, it's I don't know. It's weird. How do you sneak onto campus and not get seen by anyone? And then she's worried about Effie and Braden finding out that she's alive. What if they were right there? Or what if Tariq could have got the text and went there with Braden and Effie? Like, what would have happened then? Like, I don't know. There's all kinds of questions that come to mind about this whole thing of her sneaking to meet Tariq. That was a bit far-fetched for my liking, but we got that moment, and it didn't live up to what I thought it would be, but it is interesting now that it happened based on what could happen next. So we got that revelation. Tariq knows that she's alive, and this kind of does change everything, because now Tariq knows that Effie and Braden are lying to him. And I'm wondering how he's going to carry that, how he's going to handle that. Is he going to be calculating? Is he going to use this information in his favor? There's so many ways he can kind of go about this now that he knows that. And then I don't know where this leaves Lauren now. Like, what is she going to do? Is she going to basically try to sabotage the case for Tariq? And now Tariq knows about the case too. So I wonder how he's going to react to that. The fact, because now he knows for certain that they're investigating him and everyone. So that's a whole nother thing in itself. So yeah, interesting developments. And like I said, the fact that Lorenzo is dead, that does leave a lot of room now in the story for all of these other storylines to come to the forefront a bit, like the investigation and Lauren and Effie and stuff. So, and Noma. And I do believe that they are still building towards the Noma and Monet face off and, rivalry, I guess. So I can't wait to see that. But yeah, overall, I feel like it was entertaining to watch this episode. There was some action, there was some ups and downs. It was an entertaining episode to watch. But I don't know, sometimes I question the choice, like the choices they make in the story, and how certain things play out, how it's set up, like certain payoffs, like I feel like they don't hit like they could have. But yeah, it was still entertaining to watch, so I'll give them that. I'll give them that. It was cool. But so I'm very excited to hear what Dana has to say about this episode, because we talk about this off air and she says she's kind of like changed her mind a little bit. So I can't wait to see what she has to say. I also heard she's got charts or something, so charts and diagrams. So I'm waiting for these takeaways. So take it away, Dana, when you're ready.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yay. Sorry about that. Okay, so wrong, because this episode was like Dynasty. This was Black Dynasty with drugs. So yay for this episode, because it gets ghetto. But like ghetto in a good way. I use the term ghetto as in like, messy. I don't use it like, oh, it's ghetto. But no, good messy. Okay, so we got to start off with the beginning, because I always feel that the lesson that they teach in the classroom is reflective of what's going on with all of the characters and their plots. So here we have, the whole thing is about second chances, right? And how, it talks about the settlers, how they came here, but they was basically looking for freedom. Whether or not they obtained the freedom from good means, we all know they didn't. But the point is, they came in here looking for freedom, for political and religious freedoms just to be able to be their own person without the guidance or the suffocation of the monarchy or someone who is constantly in control of you. They want that freedom. So when you look at it with this way, one of the things that was said was that because of how they treated, say, the Native Americans and how they stole the Africans from Africa to bring over here, settlers taught us that you have to take someone else's chance in order to get your own. And I thought that that was very important when we come to Cain's situation. Cain was basically the guy who figured out within a matter of days that it was his father who killed Zeke. And he was always constantly living under the control of Lorenzo. And in order for him to find that freedom was for Lorenzo to die, because he wouldn't have any other way. Therefore, I believe strongly Cain knew what he was doing when he was like, you got to tell Ma, you got to tell Ma. Not because, I care about your soul and we're going to fix the family. He was purposely setting up Lorenzo to die. So then that way, he is actually free from Lorenzo and that control of him trying to take back control. Yes, you can get him for like, I know what you did and I'm going to get you all beaten up and all of that. And, now you're my puppet. That's cute. But how long is that going to last before Lorenzo starts to have his own rebellion? So in order to prevent that, and in order to finally take that full control, like the settlers, remember, you have to take someone else's chance to get your own. He killed his dad. He is responsible for that whole situation. Yes, you can say Lorenzo is responsible. And remember, they had that conversation between Lorenzo and Monet about how they both bear a burden. Everything was based upon lies when it came to Monet, and the fact that she didn't introduce who Zeke actually was the son, and that she also brought Dante back into their lives. But at the end of the day, it wasn't Dante or Monet who got Zeke killed. It was Lorenzo. So I think that, and the fact that he died, yes, it was a lot of foreshadowing, which I do not like. I like the whole aspect of show, don't tell. And they did a lot of telling. I'm going to slit his throat. And what happened? He slit his throat. But the fact that it was framed right in front of Zeke's mural, his mural was just, that's cinema. That is the gold standard of cinema. That's literally Zeke in heaven or wherever he's at going, ha-ha, you're dead. Ha-ha. So I like that. That part was just brilliant. Now, going off with that again, second chances. This is how Theo ties into this whole situation. We know that Sax was working for Jen as a CI to uncover all of the dirt of what was going on with Davis McLean, right? And we know that he was trying to get the RICO case, and Davis added to the RICO case for Jen to be like, I got them all, yay, right? But here's the thing. The fact that Jenny wasn't open to Sax hurt her even more, because I do not feel Sax is in his feelings. It's really interesting how they make some of the men of this season. They make them to be like wimps and whiny and just complain about everything. Aside from Tariq used to do that in the very, the Power first part. But this one, like, he's mad. But all these other guys are just like, yeah, you don't love me no more. Anyway, point that I'm trying to make is this. With Theo, so I feel that now that Sax is all in his feelings, yeah, I hate you, he is going to tell Davis about what was really going on. And now, on top of that, his focus, we do know that he was able to get the violation noticed so that they can make the claim for a pardon or maybe a new trial. I don't know how it goes, but he was able to find that. But I do feel that he's going to be solely focused on getting Theo released. So second chance for Theo, who technically didn't commit the crime. It was Davis. So you see how Davis is tied into that whole you have to take someone else's chance to get your own, because technically he was supposed to go to jail, lose all his scholarships, not become a lawyer. We don't know what deal could have been. So yay for that. I like this episode. Also, I think I'm on number 3 now. Number 3, when it comes to second chances, would have to be the whole part of, sorry, I wrote my notes in different parts and I can't read because I have pink eye. So the other part would have to be about, what is it? Noma. No, not Noma. We're going to skip Noma because Noma, she'll be forced. She's not really that important right now. But obviously it has to go with Lauren. Lauren being stuck with no phone, no Wi-Fi, and a can of Spam. Her second chance at freedom is as corny as it was of her running up to Tariq with that little box cutter. Yeah. I thought it was really to show, she never lied about this whole situation. Her and Tariq, I believe, they would have been a nice couple together. But the thing was, that opportunity was stolen from them by obviously Effie and Brayden. Well, more like Kane, technically. It gets sloppy, but like a good sloppy. This is why I say it's messy, but a good messy and ghetto. But a good ghetto. The point that I'm saying with this is, with Lauren, her chances now, maybe there's a possibility that she could be with Tariq because we had that whole situation of I can't trust Effie. That whole life that I wanted to build and I kept saying that I'm going to build with her is now no longer in motion now that I know that she's a liar and she's basically a killer. And then she lied about the killing. So she double-crossed me all the whole time, and she took away my opportunity of being with Lauren, who he was with first. Granted, she's like the Tasha of the situation, Lauren, and Effie is the Angela situation. But the thing is, as writers, what if they flip it? If they got rid of the whole Angela they did get rid of Angela. But the point is, he's happy with being back with Lauren. And we know that Ghost was miserable with Tasha. What happens if he's happy with Lauren coming back? This whole thing is just a mind warp, what Tariq is going through. And I'm really looking forward to see how he progresses with this, because at this moment, everyone has lied to him. Brayden lied to him. Effie lied to him. But not Lauren. So it's interesting to see how this all plays out. So while I do wonder how she was able, because it looked like she was in upstate New York, and you got to take a train. And if you ain't got a cell phone, I'm going to imagine they took your credit cards as well, your identification. Did she just run there from the park the entire time? There are questions about the logistics of this. But, good for her. She made it, and she found Tariq, and Tariq didn't bring along any of his friends. So that's a good part. Now, Noma, I didn't like how they handled the Noma of it all, because to me, it felt like it was thrown in. Oh, she has a child with this random Italian man who was also now dead. I don't know what you was trying to go with that. Noma seems to be like that kind of person who just like, oh, you're going to try to threaten me? All right, I'm going to just kill you. Like, we get it that the kids serve a purpose to Noma, but the grand scheme of things, not really. So I feel that the whole she has a kid is a little weak. I don't know how it's going to play out, but just overall, I don't care about the child kid. Kill a kid. No offense. I know we're not supposed to, but see, with me and the things, I don't see how that, to me, it just seems like they would just anger her even more. And then therefore she would just kill everybody. Also, I am going to say that I do like her because with this season, it gave us international power. And I like international power compared to New York City. I mean, New York City is you're limited. And it can get stifling and repetitive compared to, when you watch the original Ghost, which was also in New York City. And then also on top of that, we have the other spinoffs with Queens, with Raising Kanan, he's in Queens. And like, yay, New York, but take me something international. Do some things. You had a boat the last season. Maybe we could take that boat, and now we're in Argentina. Each episode, it should be White Lotus, where each episode or each series, each season is in another country. White Lotus, this situation. So yes, that's kind of what I want. And I think I do have a chart for later on, because this is a whole bunch of mess. And I like how they set up everything, because not only can Tariq not trust anyone, I believe that everyone in this show, how they set it up, is disposable. And the fact that everyone has crossed everyone is going to make for such a good dinner scene. So I'm very happy about what's going.
Can I?
Is that all the takeaways? Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
I just want to make a quick comment.
Yeah.
Excellent takeaways by both you, Dana, and Gary. But I do have an answer to your question about how did Lauren get from one location to the other. It's very simple. The Power writing team has a bus that transported her from Jenny's place to Stansfield campus. That's the answer. So there you go.
Oh yeah, there's a bus that goes right there, right? A direct bus. Yeah,
yeah.
I guess we can't be too surprised, because people are always showing up on that campus like uninvited. So Kane shows up like nothing, just walking around the dorms. So yeah.
Here's the one thing I don't have a problem with that. Private universities here, at least in New York City, the ones that I experienced, and the ones in other states, obviously there's certain changes now because everyone keeps shooting up everyone. They're open. So for example, I live right by a certain university. I could just walk on the campus, and I've snuck in and was like, I really want to see what's going on in this course.
Oh yeah, you took me there,
and
right?
I walked in. I took you there.
Is it
So
Columbia?
you can just walk in. Yeah.
Oh,
So you
yeah,
can just walk right in. But like, for some strange reason, what's really hilarious is a lot of the public schools, like the public universities and colleges, they're the ones that have lockdown situations, which is like insane, because you're paying over $100,000 for these private schools, and it's like, I could just walk in. So that is like the only thing that's honestly, to me, the most believable. We're like, oh, why is everyone on the thing? Because you could just walk in.
Oh, fair enough. I guess it's different in New York than in New York State.
But yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, still funny about Lauren though. But yeah, excellent takeaways. There, great observations as always. Like, you got very deep with it, in terms of how it affects everyone. And I do believe that Tariq, at this moment, he can't trust anybody at all. And
but nobody else can trust anyone, because if you look at the whole situation, everybody done killed somebody and then didn't say anything of who they killed. And then the people who they thought was the killer was actually something else, because Kane, he's the most sloppy, not sloppy, but he has his hands in a lot of different things. So yeah, we'll break it down later.
Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna break it down. I have some questions about all of that stuff, but yeah, I just wanted to say great takeaways from both of you. So we will head over into the questions and discussions segment right now. And friendly reminder to the people: leave your comments, let us know your thoughts. Also, hit the like button and subscribe too. So I guess the first place we should go is so how do you think the Tejada family is going to react? How is Drew going to react? How is Kane going to react? How is Diana going to react? Because we see Diana actually had that conversation with Lorenzo. I thought we was about to get a dinner scene right there, but then Lorenzo took her away and they had a private conversation. And yeah, he apologized to her for getting her involved again, and then he told her, like, you should take your independence and all that stuff. And then he ends up dying after that. So I think that's going to hit her hard. and then Kane was just starting to really get close to Lorenzo again. So he might. But the thing is with Kane, I think he might suspect that it was Monet or she had something to do with it, because they had that conversation already. So I think he's going to suspect her, and maybe that might cause some conflict. But Drew, he, like, judging by the trailer, he's completely oblivious. He thinks it's the Russians or something. I don't know. But but yeah, like, based on what we know, how do you guys think that the Tejada family is gonna react to this death? How do you see the funeral panning out? And where do we go from here? Where do they go from here? Like, are they going to be a happy family? Is the rift between them going to get even bigger? Like, what do you think is going to happen? How are they going to react to the loss of Lorenzo? So I'll head to you first, Dana. What do you think about that?
Oh, no. No, yeah, there we go. Okay, so then this is what kind of when we get to diagram time, because the whole family, I believe, is going to be in shambles. And we do know from the clips that they showed in the full trailer, remember when the show was about to debut, they gave us a trailer, that unless they edit it wrong, differently, something is going to pop off during that funeral. And we got the machine guns or the AK-47s. I'm not skilled in guns, but we got something that goes brrr. So yay for that. Here's the issue. Right now, everyone doesn't know anything, but except for kind of Tariq. But the main issue that we have is Drew and what is it? Gordo, cousin, brother, boyfriend. They're in that weird situation where once Drew finds out what happens, I do believe, is going to kill. He's going to kill the cousin boyfriend, right? But this also involves two other families, because remember, they're two different families. Remember, the Evelyn has the 3 boys, or 3 or 4 of them? So those boys could retaliate once cousin boyfriend is dead. So that's a whole nother mess of things where we don't know where the brrr comes from. But so that's one thing there. But here's the weird part about that is that the Drew, he's gonna kill the Gordo, for killing Lorenzo for revenge for killing Frank. But Frank was actually killed by Kane. Remember that part? Because Monet wanted revenge against Lorenzo for killing Zeke. And then Diana, when she finds out, wants to kill Monet. Remember, she gave that whole speech that I genuinely believed was from the heart. She's cancer. We got to cut her out. So she, I feel, is going to be one of the big main targets for this whole situation. So that family is going to be in complete shambles, as well as their relationship with the Castillos, the mother peoples, right? So it's affecting 2 families. And then, you leave separate of what's going on with Tariq and his side of the things. So I do feel that Monet is best to just pass on. And I stated this before, because it's just a continuous cycle, and her character, I feel, doesn't grow, especially after the death of Lorenzo. What is she going to do now but the same things that she did from season 1? We got to get the drugs. Where's the drugs? No, we got to get the connect. That same kind of mentality. And I think, and we've seen this, Diana wants no parts of it. Remember, she finally got her freedom right before her dad was murdered. But she got her freedom. She doesn't want any parts of that. I feel that Kane does. Drew is such a he's distracted so much that I think he still could be like that. He has his good moments and his bads, but he's still kind of at the liability stage. With Lorenzo being dead, here's the issue that I have is with Kane now being master and commander of the family in terms of the drug business, he still had a lot to learn that Lorenzo was too stubborn to teach him about, I feel, and instead kept yelling at him, know your place, instead of bringing him in under his wing like he may have did with Drew originally, that there's more opportunity to be for situations to be screwed up than before. And then Monet is still in her feelings and not fully there. I just don't know how they're going to continue with Monet's character. I'm more interested in the kids at this moment. And I just don't want to see more of Mary J's acting. So I'm okay if Diana takes her out. But at this moment, you know, the whole family is in shambles. And we do know something goes down at the funeral. We didn't know who the funeral was, but now we know that it's for Lorenzo. So we have Drew also blames the Russians. But the Russians, from what I understand, was through with the Costello. Remember when Braden couldn't kill him and so Tariq did instead? So this whole thing is just messy. But like a good messy. I want to see where it goes. But at this point, it could get confusing. But I just think that the whole family is a mess. Because if you now retaliate after the Russians, you have that. And then you're going to also, once you find out the truth, then you're also going to start feuding with the Castellos, or whatever you pronounce it. So it's like 1 against 2. So yeah, maybe they all die. I don't know. But it's messy.
Oh yeah, it's definitely messy, and yeah, I agree. Like there's a lot of like interconnected messiness in the Tejada family, like you described. Like everybody's kind of they've got like dirt on each other, or they've got beef with each other somehow, some way. So yeah, very well laid out there. And what I think could happen with the whole Russian thing is I think Drew is going to make a silly mistake and maybe try to retaliate on the Russians, and maybe that's who comes to the funeral to shoot it up and everything. And because he knows, because he's basically, you know, he's literally in bed with Gordo right now. I think that, you know, he is gonna, you know, maybe use him for information on the Russians, because he did have that connect before, so he probably knows some of the Russians or something. So maybe he'll get him involved, and that will put Gordo in a tight moral state, because he knows that he killed Lorenzo. So, you know, he's going to be like, damn, do I tell him or do I go along with this or whatever? I think something like that might happen. What was you going to say?
And then
Dan?
also, the redneck is still alive. He may not have his phone, but the redneck is still alive.
No, he's not.
He died. He actually died, right?
Yep.
Oh, he died. Yep. Sorry.
Because they were going to collect his things, and
right.
What's her name? Blanca showed up too late. So
right.
Yeah, so they put that to rest. But Rich, what's your thoughts on the whole Tejada family? How do you think they're going to react? What's this thing with the Russians going to be? How's the funeral going to turn out? You know, let us know your thoughts.
Well, let me start by saying I think that you both made some great points. I feel a lot of things were revealed in the trailer for the next episode. You know, Monet makes a comment saying that now she's in charge of the business. Obviously, we know up until this point, Kane, you know, as Dana made the very good point about Kane wanting to be in charge. And I believe everything that Dana said about Kane setting up his father, the way she explained that makes a lot of sense to me, that's exactly what his goal was. And I'm pretty sure he knows that Monet had something to do with this. Now, to answer the question though, Gary, I do believe that Drew is going to try to retaliate against the Russians, and that's exactly who shows up at the funeral. I also think, you know, Gordo is going to be a very slick character, because obviously, as you said, you may think that he's going to be struggling with telling Drew, but I think what's going to happen is Drew is going to go to do some type of attack against the Russians. They find out he was involved. They come to that funeral, and then Gordo, because of course they have to be there to show moral support to the family, right? He's going to be there as well. So that's probably when that shootout happens next week at the funeral, because the Russians are coming after them directly. I know Diana's going to be devastated. And I think that once again, the season trailer revealed that she made the comment to Whitman in a previous episode that said Monet is the cancer, right? That was a very deliberate and very specific words to use to call her mom that. So I do believe the end game here for the Monet character to get taken out is going to be by Diana. When Diana finds out that her mom was involved in taking out her father, she's going to do something to respond to that. And again, we know that Diana is a character that is very nosy and likes to go through and investigate all this other stuff. We saw that last with all the stuff that happened with Zeke, how she came to that revelation. So she is going to find out, I think, by the end of the season. Then I'll be very curious to see what her move will be from there. But she will be devastated that Lorenzo was gone. Drew obviously is going to seek revenge with the Russians. Monet doesn't care. She's unbothered, right? Because that's how she appeared in this episode at the end when they were all together. And as for Kane, yeah, we saw that Kane took his father's chain because he, that was also in the trailer. So I think that, but Kane knows that Monet had something to do with this. And again, like I had said earlier, if it actually is discovered that his body is right there in front of that mural, then obviously you know without a doubt she was involved. Anybody that's a good detective would think, is there a connection between these two things? So we'll see what happens. Obviously, the other thing we didn't really discuss here is that go back to Davis McLean, because his conversation with Monet made him believe that she had moved on, that she know Lorenzo wasn't involved. So how is he going to react in the next episode when he finds out that Lorenzo is dead? You see, this is what I'm saying. It's a lot of things that's going to be happening at the same time. So I look forward to seeing how they explain things from a storytelling standpoint. But I think everybody is going to be devastated with the exception of Monet, because clearly she had to resolve this issue. Now she has peace, so she ain't going to be worried about it. But it is going to have a ripple effect. And the last point that I will make is that I do believe that if the Russians are the ones that are shooting up that funeral, which I think they are, we could very well see Gordo get killed. And at that point, this is when the whole Castillo family coming, having this whole war with the Tejada family, this is when it actually starts. Because I think that's going to definitely happen, because the whole thing of them of Evelyn having that conversation with Monet in this episode, that was to give you a sign ahead of time. Oh yeah, it is going to be a war between the family. I mean, I think that's coming. I think that's very apparent by how they spoke in this episode. So stay tuned for that. But yes, to quote Dana, it's going to be very messy for the foreseeable future with all these characters.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dana.
Can I just say that the fact that he died in front of his non-son's I can't pronounce words,
Mural.
but the wall thing, mural. Here's the thing. You can easily just argue he was there at that spot because he was so heartbroken over the kid's death. Or, he was drunk. He technically stumbled to his car, and that's where he died. He parked his car there. It wasn't like he was dragged from one spot to the other spot. They took him out, face your non-son's son, and then they slit his throat. He happened to be there. They showed him all like, yes, the best, and then it was like, aha. And then he was like, and then he died. With Zeke literally looking over as being, some kind of like sign metaphorically that was brilliant. So yeah. I don't see the argument of saying, well, Monet was involved, because the car was already parked. And if you go to the bartenders or the bars in that area, yeah, he was in here and he walked back to his car. He never moved. So the car is still technically there.
Oh no! So I agree. I will say this: the average detective might not suspect any of this, but what I'm saying is that I 100% believe Kane knows that Monet was involved with this, because he was the one, as you said earlier, he orchestrated. He told him you should tell mom what happened. You should tell her what happened, right? So I'm pretty sure he's going to find out very quickly and say he's going to know. Oh yeah, Monet has something to do with this. But let's see what happens, because I kind of feel like he knows what really happened. The other detectives might not know, but I think obviously Jenny Sullivan, Blanca in them, if they hear about this, they're going to be suspicious because they just saw this guy when Monet gave her testimony at the house. So they know, okay, this is what's going on with this family. Something is connected here. So it raises a lot of eyebrows.
I think. Oh,
No, go ahead.
go ahead, then.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, with Jenny and Blanca, I think because there's a paper trail, right? So we know that Sachs found that file in Davis McLean's office, and that's like a confidential incident report or whatever that states that Lorenzo's fingerprints was at that scene. And so I think if Sachs ends up like telling Jenny that, and now they know that Lorenzo's dead, like they might suspect that Monet was involved. Like, oh, so Davis has this, and he's a part of this organization, so he must have showed her,
Well,
and now he ends up dead. So
I just want to make one comment, then I want to go to Dana. I just want to say, I don't know if they're going to find that out, because he told her that he found the file. He didn't tell her what was in that file. So that right there, and then he told her, oh, it's over. We're done. We're over with now. So I'm curious to see how this is going to come about now, because they're definitely going to want to know what happened to Lorenzo. But we'll see what happens. But go ahead, Dana.
No, you said it. Sachs is the Captain Save-A-Ho in this whole mission, because remember, he texted her, "I found the file," and she's like, "I'm busy," and then he was like, "Why are you busy?" Remember, he went and followed her and then called again, and then she was like, and he said, "Ignore," and he was all in his feelings and like, "I don't want to do anything with you anymore." So at this point, he could have burnt the file. It doesn't really matter, because he's all like, "She doesn't love me." So I think he's going to be the one who squashes this, because what he had right there was very damning and important for their case. But with him and his feelings and probably burning everything down, and then knowing that Lauren is alive and that she is keeping the fact that Lauren is alive away from both Sachs and Blanca, what's the point of even coming back?
So I have a question I want to ask you both, as well as the people that will comment on this video. So because things did not work out for Jenny and Sachs, do you somehow see, if Sachs is withholding information, they can say, you know what, he's probably a part of this also. Let's throw him into this investigation as well. Because I kind of feel like it could head in that direction with Jenny, because he's not going to reveal what he saw in that file now. So I'm just curious what y'all think about that, as well as the commenters.
I
have two things to say on that. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dave.
No, I think she even forgot it, that she even said that, because she's so lackadaisical and in her own world that you want to she wasn't even thinking about that.
Yeah.
So right. I don't even think that's going to be a factor anymore.
Yeah. So what I was gonna say is, so even if they got rid of that file still exists somewhere. It's still there's still another copy. There's copies out there, and we're talking about police. Like, Blanca is connected. She's an actual cop or whatever. So she could, like, I think they can get access to that information later, and they can use it to prove motivation for Lorenzo's death, maybe. But also, in terms of Sachs, I 100% agree that he could get brought into the RICO later if he chooses to side with Davis McLean. I absolutely believe that Jenny might decide to throw him in the mix of the RICO, and we have to remember that he already has dirt on him from what he did previously in the last season of Power. So he's already dirty from that.
I agree with both of those points, and I will also add that they also show in that trailer that now he's trying to talk to Lauren. That's why I say, because that was Jenny's CI, right? So now Sack's trying to step over the boundaries to talk to her and convince her don't listen to Jenny. That's why I say they may definitely try to throw him into this now. And obviously we already know that Blanca doesn't like Sax, so we'll see what happens. But as Dana said, it's going to get very messy for everybody on this show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any last
I
words
just
on
feel
this? Yeah, go ahead.
I just kind of feel that Sax is the one who's holding all of the cards right now. He is the most important one. But at the same time, I'm interested in finding out what happens with Diana, because Diana also holds the cards too, in terms of she was there when Monet killed Whitman. She is that witness. And while she, lied and said, I don't know what happened, she can easily say, I'm the poor innocent victim. My mother was controlling everything. I lied to you. Come help me and get her. So she could ultimately be that whole downfall of that family situation. And then on top of that, Sax could be the downfall of the Rico case. So I think those two may be the most important. And then if you have Lauren, who's already in her feelings with her box cutter and her can of spam, she wants out as well. And I feel that she is going to, or maybe Sax is going to be able to convince her to turn against Jen on top of that. So whatever is being said or whatever they want to bring up, maybe it ends up crossing out each other because they're both doing something dirty. And if she believes that, Jen is lying to her and that she can easily say you're making up this whole thing about Tariq, and she could testify in Tariq's behavior. I mean, in his favor against Jen and Blanca. So that seemed like they had the upper hand in this situation. So Blanca and Jen, they just seem to be like Dumb and Dumber at this point. I don't think they're gonna really get much far in this season.
Yeah, yeah, it can definitely go either way. It just depends on a few motivations of the characters. I definitely think Lauren might actually, end up helping Tariq now. So that's going to be one thing that's not in Jenny's favor. And then Sax also, like, he might end up on the other side helping Davis and everyone else. So yeah, like I definitely think that case can be pulled apart very easily just by a few people banding together. So yeah, it's in jeopardy for sure. But we'll move on to something else now. So let's talk about Tariq, Braden, and Effie and them. So we kind of touched on this in our takeaways, but after the whole, first of all, this is one of the things I kind of liked about this episode, the whole Italy thing, the whole going to the party and the Ocean's 11 trying to get the device or whatever. It was. I do think they could have did more with it, but it was okay for what it was. And yeah, like Braden getting tortured and then they have to rescue him and then they use the device as leverage. Like I thought all of that was pretty cool. Some cool twists and turns there. And then Noma coming to kill everyone. All of that was cool, right? So yeah, so Effie, she's very, she's very secretive, very she does her own thing basically, and she was able to like snap a picture of the private art, whatever, and she finds out that Noma has a child, and then she pitches this plan to Tariq that this is how they're gonna get out of this. So the question is, do you think that they're gonna go along with this plan? Are they gonna see it through? Is this gonna be something they maybe present to Kane also and the Tejadas to tell them, look, we've got this dirt on her. I think we should all try and, look into this, and then we can all kind of flip the script on Noma and get ourselves out the game. You know, do you think that like this is something they're all gonna collaborate on and try to do? And you know, how soon do you think they might move on this as well? So, Rich, what do you think about that?
That's a very good question. In my personal opinion, I think how this episode ended, that is the answer to your question. I don't think that Tariq can trust Effie because, again, all the stuff he's hearing about with Lauren, that's going to definitely complicate how they move together moving forward in Braden as well. So I think the point that I was making in my takeaways is that Tariq already has the trump card in this entire situation because he knows that Monet killed Mecca. And you see that Noma is still asking questions about who killed Mecca, right? So he can just present her with this information and in hopes of her and Monet trying to take out each other. And then that can eliminate them both from their equation altogether. But you see, so far this season, they have told you that Tariq has been forthright and honest with Monet. That's why I had said on the recap last week, it'll be very, very, very interesting if he decides to turn on her at the end of the season and say, yeah, Noma, this is the person you need to deal with because she had a history with Mecca, and then Monet will come after her. But we know that's not going to happen. I do think, as Dana said, Monet might be nearing the end of her time on this show at some point, and I would like to see Diana take her out. So we'll see if that happens. But to answer your question, I think that Tariq is going to be so taken aback by this revelation about Lauren. He's not going to trust Effie. So I don't think he's going to want to go along with her plan. And to go to what Dana said earlier, because Effie is always looking out for her own best interests, she may decide to go with this plan. So they both will split it right down the middle in terms of how they want to deal with the situation, and that may cause further conflict for the both of them. But no, I don't think they're going to go along with this plan. At least Tariq isn't, because now he has to reevaluate his relationship with Effie and Braden after all this stuff.
So you don't think one of them actually might try to, because you know I assume it's just Effie and Tariq that knows about it at this moment.
Yeah.
So you don't think that, like, because obviously Tariq knows that she lied to him and he's not happy about that. But do you think that one of them could potentially end up trying to act out the plan without the other, and then maybe the other one kind of crosses them while they're trying to do it, or messes it up somehow? You know.
I think Effie 100% can act on her own because she's thinking about her own best interest. She wants to get out of this, right? So I think she would be the one that would execute this plan without him. They sort of teased that already earlier this season when she was thinking about bringing back Course Correct before talking to Tariq. Then she eventually had a conversation with Tariq and then decided to do it after that. So I kind of feel like she can make this decision independently on her own to act on her own accord this time around. And yeah, I can see that happening. But I will be very curious to see how everything goes down because, again, Tariq, it's going to be hard for him to trust her now. So, and she's had opportunities to tell him the truth, and she has not said anything. So I'm just very curious to see what happens in the next episode because clearly after that revelation, you want to see what truly happens. So we'll see.
If Tariq's really cold, what he could do is try and like go along with the plan with Effie and tell her like we're gonna do this, and basically set her up and side with Noma, like and basically set up Effie because you know because he obviously he's gonna be upset now. So
now if he does that, I have to give him James St. Patrick points. If he actually does that. Because Ghost did not care about anybody. He cared about himself. So yes, let's see that happen. Power Riders.
Yeah, that would be pretty incredible. Because if you think about it, like Tariq's part of his logic for wanting to get out the game was he wanted to be with Effie. Like he wanted to get out together and have, you know, a good life or whatever. So now that might be off the table for him because now he knows she lied to him and everything. So he might be like, you know what, I'm gonna keep working with Noma. Like I'm gonna keep doing this, you know, and then that might want him to that might make him want to set her up or whatever to get back at her. But Dana, like, what do you think of this whole thing? Like, how do you think they're going to go along with the plan? Are they going to try and execute it? What do you think will happen?
It's messy. This whole episode is messy, ghetto-ly messy. And no, he's not gonna be like, oh, I want to go with Noma. At least I don't think so. I don't know. But see, that's why it's good, because it's messy. You don't know what's gonna happen. Here's the thing with this. He did not want to be like, oh, I want to quit because of you. He wants to quit because of his mother and his sister. His whole goal is to reach that number. Remember, everyone has a number. He wants to reach that number. He can be with his family. And the whole fantasy that he had was everybody living a normal life. Effie was to go to Stanford, I believe it was Stanford, study the robotics, and meet his mom. I mean, you could meet my mom, you could meet my sister, situation. So the whole thing was to build a family together. That included Effie. He was going to go and be with Effie, but also his mama and his sister thing comes first. I believe that his mother and his sister are still main priority, because this is the whole point and purpose as to why we're doing this, right? Effie, as much it may hurt, oh my God, look what you did. I loved you. She's disposable compared to what his feelings are, and how it wasn't the fact that, yes, it's the fact that you tried to kill Lauren, but it's also the fact that you lied to me for months. You had me checking the phone and looking for her and walking in the streets. You know, Lauren, is that you? I miss you, Lauren. Tossing and turning at night, distraught, right? So it's the emotional damage that Effie caused, more so than the fact that he tried to have Lauren killed. I feel this is how I think it's gonna be end up messy, and I don't know whether or not they're going to go with Noma. The thing with Noma is she is the one where you can get the money or their number the quickest, and for Tariq, the quickest. But we do know that Tariq is flat out. I feel he's planning on trying to kill Lauren about this whole. Not planning to kill Lauren. He's trying to kill Effie about what happened with Lauren. But at the same time, we do know that he is talking to Saxe with Lauren. So I don't think that Effie getting murdered would be the best decision. You know, the fact that the whole feds are involved and the fact that Saxe is involved, even though he is dirty, is just too many people where it could just get sloppy. But at the same time, I do believe that Effie is going to side and run. Remember, Kane has been trying to call up Effie for the longest. So I do believe there's going to be some kind of relationship. She has no other choice. She can't run to Tariq. Tariq don't like her no more. He may be, maybe in the middle of the night, he might strangle her. Not kill her fully, but I'm going to strangle you. Stop it. And then she's running out, scared of her life. But she's going to end up with Kane. That whole thing of, hey, girl, I feel was for a reason. So he is a factor that we haven't thought of. Also, on top of that, Kane is going to want to kill Brayden, because remember that whole thing, you owe me your body. You told me that you killed her, and even though he feels that he knows deep in his heartness, and he knows that he didn't kill her, he knows that he thought that it was Effie. So this is, you see what I mean? Extra sloppy. He's running to the arms of Effie. Well, I thought that you killed Lauren, but you actually didn't kill Lauren, so now I got to kill you too. So it's just a whole cycle. Everybody got to die at this moment. So with Noma and in her situation, I don't know where that, the only person that I can see having her to side with would probably be Effie, who ends up having to run to Noma, because Effie has the most to lose when you have both Tariq and Kane possibly wanting to kill you because you lied. So that's the only one who she could really run to. Brayden is really caught in the middle of this whole situation. And then on top of that, we know that Kane wants to kill him as well. And then if you really want to get technical, Tariq could blame Brayden for even putting him in this situation. Because remember, his internship was supposed to be with Tate. But he made him bomb the whole, made him lose his internship. So you see what I mean? By this whole thing is messy. You need a flow chart just to figure out what's going on. So getting Diana in the situation, she's the only pure one-ish. But then you got Asalaka Lakem, who's running in the corner, who could be somebody's CI on top of that. Who knows what's going on? Remember, she said, well, it's getting too hot. But we didn't see what's getting too hot. But I don't know if that means that they're saving for another episode that Salim is figuring things out of her selling the drugs in the school. So this whole thing is just it's dynasty. It's a mess. This is a black soap opera. I'm here for it, but I'm confused and I can't answer your question because I don't know.
So can I just make a quick comment?
Yeah.
First and foremost, excellent points, Dana. And I was just going to say, as for what you said about Brayden and the Tariq and the internship, I believe Tariq is going to find out about this very soon, because I remember in that season trailer, it looked like Brayden getting punched in the face by look like Tariq. So that's going to happen. That may happen in the next episode or shortly thereafter, but it will happen.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see that happen next week with him beating up Brayden or something. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting one to see how that goes. And I am curious to know like whether Tariq will maintain that friendship with Brayden after, like, because obviously he's part of the lie too with Lauren. But like those two have such a brotherhood going on, and I don't know if I see them being mad at each other for too long. So I'm curious to see how that goes. Go ahead, Rich.
I don't want to interrupt, but I just thought of something. We didn't mention this yet. Now, when they were boarding the plane, you saw that Kiki saw that Brayden's phone, one of his phones, the business phone, fell out, and she saw the crash coin alerts that he was getting on that phone. So Brayden need to be careful around her, because I think now she's going to start to investigate and see what is he doing behind the scenes. And that could be what Tariq gets mad about and hits Brayden about. I mean, on top of the other stuff, but we'll have to wait and see.
But then kind of on top, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, then, but here's the thing. Kiki could run to, is it Lucas? The main guy? Yeah. Run to Lucas about what's going on and could run, because I feel he could be jealous of what Tariq and RJJ, him, the dude, black billionaire, that relationship that he has. Because remember, he got cut out of that whole deal situation. So he could run and be like, look, you don't want to deal with Tariq because the whole course correct situation, the information that he got from the girl. Mm-hmm. So if that is the case, then he would have to continue to work more with Noma, in order to get the money. The whole thing is just a mess. I mean, at this point, what is your goal that you're trying to reach with this money thing? Because you got Wall Street money and you got drug money. How much money you need? I'm confused.
That's the problem, because this is all connected. This is how they're making their money to give to Noma. So it is very vital that Brayden, no one finds out about that information. But now that Kiki she saw those alerts, them text messages, that is going to be a problem. So we have to stay tuned to see what happens with that. And who knows, that might be somebody that Brayden has to kill.
No, maybe in a way, no death. He ends up partnering with Kiki. Maybe.
You mean cutting her in on this to keep her quiet?
cutting
making
her
her a
in
part of
on
it.
this in order to keep her silent. Because
Yeah.
if you look at it this way, the group is going to be split no matter, I feel like no matter what. So you need to bring in other people to carry the load of the people who now left you and want you dead. Why not bring in Kiki?
Yeah, that's possible.
I
He
mean,
might
if
have
you
to be
look at it,
forced
it's
to
the
do that.
whole right. And then she and her contacts, because remember, she also runs things. She sets up meetings and she knows things, could make the whole Bitcoin situation even wider.
Mhm.
She could take it to a higher level than what they're doing. So I feel that that would probably be the best, because at the end of the day, what you done lost Tariq. Um, Effie is probably running for her life somewhere. Um, and so that's what you got.
Yeah.
So, and then we all know that everybody else is greedy. So, and then Braden, if he's still, the whole thing is, we hope he's still alive. So it's just a mess. So I don't think they're gonna kill Braden, and I think they're gonna probably get back together, because I don't know. It would just be weird to
I
get rid of Braden. Has been the most loyal though, and technically he didn't kill Lauren.
Lauren. Yeah,
I know
that's
I'm
true.
contradicting myself.
I
I know I'm contradicting myself, but maybe their relationship can be worked out more.
yeah, we have to get some answers on that. I don't see. I mean, I do believe that the group is going to be split, but I think it all depends on what Tariq's reaction is going to be once he finds out about this internship, right? Because that was a master manipulated move by Braden. So I don't really know if that's something that Tariq will forgive right away, even though it worked out. And by Braden doing that, Tariq said, "Okay, yeah." So made it feel like it was Tariq's idea to do all of this stuff because he was in that situation. But I'm very curious to see how he reacts, because I do feel he is going to find out about that internship, that Braden has something to do with that, and we have to see what happens after that. But that is going to definitely happen. I feel before the season is over, he will find out, and he's going to have some type of reaction to it. It may not be a positive one, but we'll see.
Everything is just a mess, but I'm here for it. But it's a mess.
Yeah.
I just want the Noma and Monet showdown, because that's just another thing.
Same.
Yeah, I feel like right now Braden is playing a Drake song, and the Drake song goes, "Kiki, do you love me? Are you riding?" He's playing that right now. No, I think Kiki's got his back, because you see how worried she was when he didn't make it back from the Lambardi party.
That's true.
She was worried about him, and then Effie said some kind of slick comment to her, like, "Oh, I'm sure he'll be back during business hours" or something, and then so like you have to remember also in I think it was the second episode, Braden had her back when she was experiencing the racism in the office, and I think she remembered.
Yep.
She remembers that. So I think she is going to have his back. I think like she's going to be a rider. Kiki is riding, and yeah, I think that he might cut her in, like you mentioned, he might cut her into the operation. I think so. Yeah, she's going to be an asset to him, I think. But yeah, great thoughts all around on that discussion. Let's get to final thoughts now. Yeah, let's get to final thoughts, and then we'll if there's anything else you think we missed or anything else you wanted to say, now's the time to do it. So I'll go to you first, Rich. Anything else you wanted to say about this episode or the trailer? You can mention the trailer also.
Well, no, I'm just gonna say, yeah, I was entertained with the episode. I'm very curious to see where they go with some of these storylines, because, as Dana said earlier, it's very messy right now on the show. But the messiness is good, because you shouldn't be able to easily predict what's going to happen on any show, right? sometimes you can, but it's all about the execution of how they actually do it. So I look forward to seeing what happens next. I don't think I had any other thoughts on the trailer. No, I'm just looking forward to seeing what happens. I'm pretty sure Dana might have a few other thoughts, so I'm gonna, hand the mic off to her.
If you're not ready yet, Dana, I have one thing, but
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
go.
okay, yeah. So though it's a quick thing. I do think that now that Tariq knows there's a case being built, I think he's going to utilize that Tate connection even more now because he knows that Tate is talking to Blanca and Jenny. So I think he might use him as a way to kind of throw them off, maybe, and that might buy him some time to get things together.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up, Gary, because now there is something that I do want to say, because you saw in this episode where when Monet contacted Tariq at the beginning of the episode, and she asked, "I need you to find out where International Guap was, if he was there when Zeke got killed," and then he tells Tate after the class, after the class segment, he tells Tate, "Hey, I believe that this guy had something to do with Zeke getting killed." So he decides to send this information to Jenny Sullivan. And then you see later in the episode Tariq getting an angry text from from Tate saying, "You lying MFer." I'm not going to swear, obviously. This is YouTube. But that's why I laughed when I saw that, because I like the interactions between Tate and Tariq. It reminds me very much of how he interacted with Ghosts. How they're talking business at one point, but then they're not afraid to just start getting ghetto and just saying, "Hey, no, brother, you're gonna do this, that, or other." So I'll be very curious to see if Tate obviously is going to be willing to help Tariq. Always, he got to get something in return for helping him. So we're going to see what happens. But he did mention to Tariq in this episode, now they're looking at me as well because of how I helped the last time. So let's see what happens. But that's a very good point, Gary. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, yeah, that was hilarious. That whole text exchange. Like, I have a feeling like because some of this stuff could have been scenes, but like there's so much to fit in the episode. But I
Yeah.
have a feeling that there's some people who kind of miss some of those text messages sometimes and don't even know how this stuff progressed. Like, so
Mhm.
that's my only critique about when they do the text stuff. But it's cool stuff. It's cool. I do like the effects and stuff that you read the text on screen, but yeah, sometimes I feel like some of these could have been actual scenes that we saw. But yeah, go ahead, Dana. Let us know your final thoughts.
Until Drew finds out that Gordo killed Lorenzo, I do think that they're going to have an ally within that family because they both did each other a favor. In terms of, remember that grief conversation and about the fact that she went to Evelyn, "I'm giving you this information so you could do whatever it is that you want." And then she gave that information also to the son. So they're technically even at this point. So that whole shootout with the Russians that we think is the Russians, they could again have an ally in this situation. So maybe they don't die at that moment. But other than that, I just think that it was, I don't have anything else to say aside from it was good situations. The thing is, I don't know how Monet and Noma what's going to happen with these characters because they seem just kind of be the most, what's interesting is Noma seems to be the most interesting, not in terms of what she could offer in the future, but at this moment, she's kind of a throwaway. I don't care about her daughter and using that as leverage. So that should be really interesting. I don't really care though, but I do think that RSJ could be some kind of ally that could help Tariq in this whole situation. Because remember, yep.
Oh no, I asked him to say, "I'm gonna wait until you finish."
No, I was gonna say, remember, he admires him in a way. And he said, don't squander your opportunity in a way. So he has access to him ish. So I just wonder if he's going to come into play with this.
That's a very good point. I'm very curious to see how that relationship develops. The fact that he teased about talking about his father and that he could have went down a similar path, but he chose not to. I wonder if that was a tease that potentially he could do something in the future that might be considered bad. Because again, we know that actor. This is the same guy that played Chris on The Wire. You know this guy has range, especially when it comes to being a character that does really bad things to people. So I'm curious to see what that means for him on this show. But stay tuned, I guess. We'll find out eventually.
I got a really ghetto theory about RSJ. So,
What's that?
so he was Chris from The Wire, right? Follow me. This is going to be real ghetto, but I'm making a connection here. So he was Chris from The Wire, and you know what Chris on The Wire did, right? In season 4, like what was he? Where was he putting the bodies? In the buildings, right? In the vacant houses, right? What did Tariq just give RSJ? The Queen's Child Project.
Yeah. yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they're gonna be stacking up bodies up in the Queen's Child Project. But no, I'm just playing. I'm just joking with that. I'm joking with that, but I do think they are gonna use that for something though. Like I think.
Oh yeah. I mean, he owes him, not owes him, but owes him, like in a way, right? Because he did give him that building.
He did, but to go along to your theory, Dana, that nobody trusts anybody. I could see him double crossing Tariq as well in the future because it will stay consistent that Tariq can't trust anybody. I just don't know how they're going to do it. And maybe it could be him stashing something illegal in that building or something. It's something that's coming. We can't see it yet, but that could happen later. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean that could even be like let's say Tariq falls out with Braden or something, or the business gets split up. The Queen's Child, like RSJ, because he seems to be getting closer to Tariq, he could end up just saying, look, I want you to run this thing because it's your legacy anyway. And then, then Tariq has his own building, like separate from the Westerns, like to do whatever he wants. Yeah. So yeah, we could see some kind of like Wall Street beef or something like between, in this show. So. Go ahead, Dana.
No, I was gonna just say that makes sense. Especially, I don't see Tariq being at that company long term. Just in terms of now that Kiki knows about the whole the Bitcoin drug situation with the cups, and no one at the firm really likes Tariq anymore, and aside from Braden, but they're gonna start falling out soon. So yeah, he could easily just shift to RSJ and work for him.
Yeah, he's definitely a Simon Stern type character in this, like, because we know how Ghost used to always end up working with Simon Stern somehow, some way. So it kind of feels like he's that guy in this show. So. Yeah. But yeah, so that was final thoughts. We can get a quick round of shout outs, or you can plug anything that you got going on. So I just want to give a shout outs to some of the people, Raiwan, Tracy Lee, Jeremiah Lutumba, Real Pretty Vibes, Joe Blow, Inga76, of course, SJ Smith, Det King, and also DJ United. Big shouts to all of you for supporting. I see people have some great theories in the comments all the time. I need to do a better job of replying to everything, because I see some great comments, but I don't always have time to reply, so I apologize. But yeah, big shouts to all the people in the comments. And the show, we obviously today it was a bit late again, but next week we're going to try and get it right on time. We're busy people. We have a lot going on with our schedules, and also health stuff going on. So
it was my fault.
yeah, it was not just your fault. It was my fault too, because we could have did it before that day anyway. But yeah, I had stuff going on. But yeah, so we're gonna try to get it right next week. But yeah, big shouts to all of the supporters. Like, we can't thank you enough. We really appreciate all of you. And Rich, you got any shout outs for us?
Oh yeah, shout out to a lot of the same people that you've already mentioned. They always leave excellent comments. So very curious to hear what you all thought about this episode. I think it's been a pretty good season so far for Power. And the last point I will mention is that I did see Joseph Sikora sent out a tweet. Somebody asked him if there was going to be any announcement about Power 4 Season 2. He said Starz is going to make an announcement very soon. So stay tuned for that, because we know a lot of you love that show as well. So, and I know that Gary cannot wait to talk about Power 4 Season 2. So stay tuned.
Oh yeah, let me know when that's coming back, because I need to book a 10-week vacation and get out of the country. You know, no, I'm playing. But Dana, any shout outs?
No, it's thank you for everyone who listens to us and supports us. So thank you for that. We appreciate it.
Indeed. So that is going to be it for this week. We thank you all for listening, and we will return next week to recap episode 6 of Power. I can't believe it's 6 episodes already. That's crazy. Time's moving fast. But yeah, we'll be back next week. So everybody take care, stay healthy, and we'll see you soon.